Sir, before we start, can I have your good name, please?
My name is Peter Jacob and I'm representing Center for Social Justice based in Lahore.
Sir, as you know, Citizenship Amendment Bill has been passed by the Indian government, and now they will be giving citizenship rights to minorities in India, but they will not be doing the same for the Muslims. How do you see this decision? Because there is a hue and cry and uproar in India itself criticizing on this controversial bill that's been passed. But on the other side, this also seems like a fact that the minorities who have gone from other countries, including Pakistan, to India, they had an identity crisis going on. And for them to get an identity might just be a good news for them at one, but on a larger picture it might be different. How do you feel about that, sir?
Well, religious discrimination is pervasive in South Asian countries. Social discrimination as well as institutional discrimination at the level of the state. Now this development comes as a torpedo. It's such a detrimental act that there will be psychological repercussions, there will be political repercussions, and of course the relationship between countries will also be affected. To say the least, that I'm devastated by the action that the government of India has taken. The parliament has passed this bill. It will not only have effects in India but also in Pakistan, because it is a biggest disservice to the Hindu community in Pakistan. They would like to be seen as patriot Pakistanis, whereas this act somehow tries to create a friction between the population here on the basis of religion, whereas it is all the way detrimental to the policies, harmony and the social cohesion in India in the outset.
But sir, you would also agree that in Pakistan, the minorities are not in a very healthy position. They've not been in a healthy position. We know different cases, lynching, stoned to death, forced conversions, kidnapping. All of these are very outright and open to everyone to see. And that is what India says as well, that if there are going to be issues here for these minorities, then India will have its gates open for them as well. So on one side, many of the minorities in Pakistan also go abroad and seek political asylums and all. Different countries. India now sees itself standing in line with the same countries like US, like Australia, like Canada, like the United Kingdom. India sees itself standing the same ground as those countries, and it opens up an opportunity for the minorities in Pakistan. Do you think, as a representative of one of the minorities in Pakistan, is this going to be an offer that Pakistani minorities would be looking into, would consider?
There are so many aspects. Actually, if you ask politically, the countries born together are like twins. One cries, the other cries without any reason. But policies in India and Pakistan has what we call is ping-pong effect. So policies of the one country will affect the other. It will create a chain of reactions and instigate behaviors which are unwanted, untoward and undesirable. Therefore, this aspect aside, it is very difficult to imagine that the Hindus in Pakistan will try to go in India and settle over there. They did not leave in 47. They did not leave afterwards. The statistics which were presented in some of the years, yes, it said that 1,000 Hindus every year are migrating to India. It is not true about all years. It is not all that easy for them to settle. People who have gone to settle in India come with very tragic stories of being unsettled and being suspected of being Pakistani agents. Yeah. So this policy is blind to the social and political realities of two countries. Therefore, I personally feel, as a student of politics, human rights, law, I think this is very divisive law. and it is going to have very negative impact on India itself and Pakistan.
So you talk about effects on one country's policy on the other country, like vis-a-vis India to Pakistan. But why not spare a thought for at least those minorities who have, and that is also fact that it might not be in a huge number, but there certainly are a lot of people, families, Hindus, Christians, Sikhs, and others as well, who've moved off to India, and now they've been struggling over there to create an identity for themselves, even as a minority. So isn't this going to be a consolidation for them, that at least they don't want to come back to Pakistan because they were not happy here? So is that not coming as a consolation for those people? At least we can spare a thought for them, and then raise this question that why a Muslim segment has been completely outrightly negated in the overall bill, because that negates also the India's perception of a secular state and having open play field for all other religions and freedom. How do you see that, sir?
Well, on the face of it, the law passed by the Indian Parliament seeks to address the issue of migration and people who have migrated in recent years. But by definition, discrimination is what prefers one over the other, which makes this distinction on whatsoever basis. So what we need to understand in the South Asian countries is that discrimination on whatsoever basis is wrong, and it is detrimental. It stops development and it creates enmity. We need to understand that first. Second comes who will get any privilege or any concession vis-a-vis settlement. We should also remember that nobody likes to leave their birthplace, their home, their cities, people, acquaintances, relationships that they live in. And the religion comes second, whereas people want to live in comfort zone. The Hindus here, the Christians here in Pakistan, it is not by choice that they will migrate. They will not migrate because of certain concessions available somewhere. It is mostly due to persecution and discriminations that they face. So as we are struggling in Pakistan to fight out those injustices, and our struggle should be, first of all, it should belong to us, but then we will welcome any solidarity that comes our way. So much true about the minorities in India, and Muslims being the largest minority there, having lived there for millennia, for centuries. There is no place in the world that they can call home except India. So they should be honored. So in the name of migrants, there should not be any law or policy instigating religious discrimination against Muslim, in this case in particular, and any other community in general.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. You heard what Mr. Jacob said, and he was very clear that no matter how good the law might be for a segment of minorities, Muslims being a majority, as far as the largest minority, in India is concerned, negating them is certainly raising eyebrows, and any policy that affects India or is applied in India has its effect on Pakistan. We are neighbors. We had a partition in 1947. There are families who have origins from India who came here, and there are families also who have divided families on both sides of the border. So those effects, definitely, any policy in Pakistan has its effects on India, and any policy of India has its effect on Pakistan. So as a minority representative and also as an expert on these affairs, Mr. Jacob was very clear. He said that discrimination needs to be negated if you need to ensure justice and equal rights, and that includes Muslims also as part of the minority segment in India. This is Hamza Amir reporting from Lahore for India Today.